Alright, so let's take a look at our pause menu, our start menu, and our quit, what we have so far. So essentially, if you remember, we created a, let's see, a main menu here. And I believe I'm kind of doing this the hard way. I think you can just open, yeah, recent levels here. You can go between main menu and level 1. So I think that's one way of doing it. I think you could also, there's a bunch of different ways for launching levels quickly. Instead of having to constantly kind of search through here. So anyway, back in our main menu, when I press play, you can see we could start our game from here. And then if I press P on my keyboard, I can launch this. All I did in between videos is I shrunk this down because I want to show you guys something else on how to, when you press P here, hide this main menu. But now when I hit start game, all it does is it resets the game, right? It doesn't really actually pause the menu. It's sort of a lie. If you look at this 75 in the corner, if I hit P again, it doesn't unpause it, and I hit start game, it just resets it. So let's just go back to level 01 for a second. I'm going to select my guy here, and then just go to edit third person character. Now remember, inside of here, what we did was, in order to get the game to pause, is we created an input called pause, and it's mapped to P. And when you press P, it creates a new widget, adds it to the viewport, sets the input mode and game mode. So what we're doing is we're setting those, but what are we setting them to? Well, we're setting our show mouse cursor variable. When we check that on the show mouse cursor, it actually is saying we don't want to show it actually. Or I'm sorry, we do want to show it because we're hitting P so that we can take control and click the menu. And then set game to pause, we want to pause it. So when we turn that on, it pauses it. Well, what we'd like to do, and there's a couple of problems with this. One is every time we create a main menu, it adds it to the viewport. So you can see that here. So what we want to do is get a reference to our UI main menu here. So one way to do that is to just kind of drag this out. And if you don't know what I mean by that, is it is the main menu that we're grabbing. So we have an actual player UI reference. I don't know if you remember that down here. Is that down at the bottom here? Let me grab this and bring it up here so you can, oop, that's not what I want to do. I want to grab this and move it up here. So what this player UI reference is if you remember, we created this function, and in this update health function here, this was a little bit we created this custom event called update health, and it updates the string variable and it sets that in the text. So as we walk over stuff, it calls this function. So what we can do in here, I'm going to close that out, is that's what this function does. It's sort of updating it. And I think after this video, I'm going to just make a bunch of basic basic blueprint videos so you can see that. So that's what this update function does, which is one of our functions here. And then inside of our player UI, this variable is storing a reference to our player UI, right? And one of the elements within that is our main menu, which is our health text box and our health, which is these guys right here. Our health text box, when I press play, it brings it on the screen, and these health hearts that pop up. All right, so let's just get to coding. I know that hopefully that wasn't too boring or abstract if you haven't done the tutorial in a while. So let's go back in here, and we'll create a variable, and that variable is going to store reference to our main menu widget, right? That's just this main menu here. So the way to do that is if you drag this out, you see this promote to variable. Now it creates a variable, and it's of type UI main menu. So what I normally will do is just name it UI main men, and then you could just do ref or something if you want. So that's our reference, and we can just kind of hook this up here, and then I'm going to hold Alt and click on this to break that, and then run it down here. Now what happens is every time this is we create a menu, it stores a reference to it in here, and we want to check. We're going to say, well, is that main menu reference currently valid? And what that means is has it been created, right? And so, well, how do you do that? Well, if I hold Control and I drag this out, and actually maybe I'll just put this up here. If I drag this out, when I type is valid, all it's going to do, and if we select the second option, it's going to check, is this valid? And if it is valid, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and unpause our menu. We don't want to create it, and we want to remove it from the viewport. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink this, and I'm going to use this is valid parameter to check whether it is not valid or it is valid. And I'm going to hook that up from this pin to this execution pin here. All right, so let's start by just hooking this up. And right off the bat, and if you want to, you can double click this, and it kind of creates this little connection pin that you can cycle off to other stuff, but it helps us sort of keep it a little bit tight and neater. So there's our is valid, and or is not valid. So if it is not valid, that means it hasn't been. We're going to create a menu, set it, blah blah blah, add it to viewport. We'll when we press P, we're going to check if it's paused, and we're going to show our cursor. We want to do sort of the exact opposite here. So what I'm going to do here is we don't want to necessarily create a menu, we want to hide our menu. All right, so notice that at this point, if it was valid, that means it's already in the scene. And if it's already in the scene, we have the add to viewport. What we're going to do is we're going to remove it from its parent, and its parent is our UI. Let me show you again. Sorry if this gets a little bit boring, but let me. I'm over explaining, I guess I should say. So notice when we add it to viewport, right? We're creating our main menu and we're adding it to the viewport. What this does is it removes it from our parent, and our parent is this viewport here. So let's continue this down the chain. All right, so if we removed it from the parent, so what are we doing right now with our UI reference? Well, there's a trick. What I can do is grab this and hold Alt, and I can set it. So I'm going to grab this execution pin. And if you leave this open here, it's saying you're setting it to null or nothing. And that's okay. So what we do is we remove it from its parent. And right after we remove it from its parent, we're going to set it to nothing. It's kind of like the same as sort of deleting it. And then from here, what I want to do is just grab these two elements here. I'm going to copy and just paste them. And I also, it's asking me what my target is. I don't actually need this, to be honest with you, because I'm already in my player controller. I'm not exactly sure why I added that. But let's go ahead and connect this. And then, actually, I might need that. Let's see. And, well, let me see if it gives me an error. Yeah, I do actually need it. I didn't think about it, even though it's set to self. So I'm just going to grab this and piggyback that in there, compile and save that. And then what I want to do is I don't want to show cursor. Now imagine this is when I press P. I don't want to show the cursor, and I don't want the game to be paused, so I'm going to uncheck both of those. The other thing is, in order to get an event to run when the game is paused, you have to turn on execute when paused. So now when I compile and save this, and I go in here, and I press P, P, let's make sure our game is playing. If I press P, you can see my game has started and everything is frozen. I press P again, my game is back. So I can press P as much as I want. Now the next thing I want to do is I kind of want to hide this UI. So notice when I press P, I want to kind of, I want them to focus on this UI, not this one up here. It's a little distracting. So let's go ahead and just hit escape on that. I'm going to edit my blueprint here. Now what I can do is, remember my player UI reference, which is up here. It's storing a reference to my different widget elements, right? So my health widgets and whatever. So let me kind of show you an example of that. So if I drag this out and I go in here and I go set health, notice I have my heart images I can set. I can do, so if I type in health, I have my set health box, set text box, and I could just grab this and then I could do like visibility, set, visibility. Here, let's do it this way, set visibility, and I can connect this and I can make it hidden. Another way of doing it, which is kind of cool, and I haven't really gone over it much outside of the one custom event I created, is I can use this player UI reference and I can create two custom events. So I'm just going to type in custom here, and I'm going to copy this twice. So copy here and paste another one down here. Now in this custom event up here, what I can name this is HUD on I'm going to copy that for a second, and then I'm going to hit F2 on this one. I'm going to name this one HUD off. And actually, these should be UD. Let's do it the right way. Now, these are custom events, which means I can call them from other areas. So, for example, if I want my HUD to be on, that's the hearts. Remember, we want to turn and on and off those HUDs. I really want it to happen down here, right? This is where our game is no longer paused, and I want my HUD to be on. So if I drag this off now and I start typing HUD, you can see I get that HUD on event. And then I need to, and then I can drag this off and I get the HUD off event. And if I compile this, you'll see that these are okay, because the thing is, if we weren't inside of our character and you were doing this in a separate blueprint, you'd have to get a reference to whatever that's on. But they don't actually do anything yet. And what I'd like to do is, off of this player UI reference, is I really just want to hide the, see how I have an add viewport here, and then I have a remove from parent. So I'm going to select these two. Actually, let me copy this. I'm going to paste this one in HUD off, and then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this on. Now, remember, this player UI reference is the UI that's in the game. That's referencing the HUD that's in the game. So if I connect this as my target, and I just connect these, I want you to see what happens. I'm going to compile and save this. I think this should work. So now when I press P, you can see it hides that HUD. And then when I press P again, that means it's on off. It brings my HUD back, and it should still update pretty good. So if I press P, hide off, there we go. So overall, that's essentially the completion of our pause menu. Now, I think, like I said, in the next video or next several videos, I think I'm going to go over the basics of just a few basics videos on some blueprints, just basic blueprint things. And I'm going to try to tie it into gameplay, because I don't like when they're just pure tutorials like that. But anyway, that's the end of this one.